I'm not telling you a story, but the first thing you have to understand is time doesn't work the way you think it does. You can call me Oracle. Someone is talking to you. Welcome to the call. Alright. So, because of the last two episodes, I decided to do a little bit of an immortality kick. On a side note, I had a conversation with my therapist back when I was still able to go to therapy. And she said, like, if there was, like, mortal people, that'd be a problem. I was like, that's a really good point. Because she's right. Like, here's the thing. If you saw the previous Immortal episode, like the first one, a lot of those immortals don't need to do things like eat or drink, or even really, like, have a place to stay. They don't need to. They just don't. They can, but they don't have to. And part of the thing is, like, a lot of the stories about how people lost their immortality back in the day is because they had the option to not eat. And, like, they also had the option to eat as well. But what they did is they took the fact they didn't have to eat, but could, and then overdid it. So they became gluttonous. And there's nothing more gluttonous than someone that, like, doesn't need to eat at all. That would, like, take food for their own enjoyment if someone is starving, for example. Like, that is a good example of someone who probably shouldn't have been immortal to begin with. But I think a lot of times stuff like that happens in stories because people are given immortality as a test and then they screw it up. That's just my guess. But so, things I have here. This isn't, this may actually, considering the number of things that exist nowadays that can help keep people alive, like Teflon coating around your heart to keep your heart beating. The notion of things that are functional immortality, as far as someone with a lifespan of 50, 60 years is concerned, if you're living to 400, like, what are you doing with your life? Seriously. What can you do to deserve to live to 400? Like, seriously. Like, if you're able to justify being alive by the good you've done, what kind of good can you do to last 400 years? But on that point, technological singularity. The technological singularity, or simply the singularity, is a hypothetical future point in time at which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseen consequences for human civilization. According to the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis, I.G. Good's intelligence explosion model, an upgraded intelligent agent will eventually enter a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and more rapidly, causing an explosion in intelligence and resulting in a powerful superintelligence that qualitatively far surpasses all human intelligence. All right. So this is from the Wikipedia article on technological singularity. All three of these are basically directly from Wikipedia. You can look at these up yourself, but the point of this is to bring them all together in this particular situation. So if that is a real functioning, if that's a theory that bears up to due rigor of logic and practice, that is a point that we are actually literally approaching. Because here's the thing. We have Yant Romana. Her name is Sophie. There's an android named Sophie in Saudi Arabia. There's AI that are literally, that people are fighting over whether or not they should be used in art. So we're kind of at that point in some ways, specifically in terms of AI and their interaction with individuals and their interaction with law, because the law is always going to be on the side of the people who have more money, which means usually not good things. All right. Immortal DNA strand hypothesis. The immortal DNA strand hypothesis was proposed in 1975 by John Cairns as a mechanism for adult stem cells to minimize mutations of their genome. The hypothesis proposes that instead of segregating their DNA during mitosis in a random manner, adult stem cells divide their DNA asymmetrically and retain a distinct template set of DNA strands, parental strands, in each division. By retaining the same set of template DNA strands, adult stem cells would pass mutations arising from errors in DNA replications onto non-stem cell daughters that soon terminally differentiate, end mitotic divisions, and become a functional cell. Passing on these replication errors would allow stem cells to reduce their rate of accumulation of mutations that could lead to serious genetic mutations such as cancer. Although evidence for this mechanism exists, whether it is a mechanism acting in adult stem cells in vivo is still controversial. I wonder if this thing has a thing about telomeres. Telomeres. And on that topic, telomere. These are fascinating. A telomere, from the ancient Greek telos, end, and meros, part, is a region of repetitive nucleotide sequence associated with specialized proteins at the end of linear chromosomes. Telomeres are a widespread genetic feature most commonly found in eukaryotes. In most, if not all, species possessing them, they protect the terminal regions of chromosomal DNA from progressive degradation and ensure the integrity of linear chromosomes by preventing DNA repair systems from mistaking the very ends of the DNA strands for a double helix strand break. So basically, what telomeres do is, as cells progressively continue to divide, they make sure that there aren't division errors that lead to cell mutations like cancer, for example. So that if there is if there is something that I'm not gonna lie, true limited knowledge of Anunnaki, I don't know a lot about genetics. I wrote a book about cloning. Like, that's it. That doesn't make me an expert on genetics. But, telomeres, from my perspective, seem like a good lead to unraveling the DNA strand hypothesis, or the immortality DNA strand hypothesis. That's just my theory, though. All right. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the omega point. The omega point is a theorized future event in which the entirety of the universe spirals toward a final point of unification. The term was invented by French Jesuit Catholic priest Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Teilhard argued that the omega point resembled the Christian logos, namely Christ, who draws all things into himself, who, in the words of Nicene Creed, is God from God and light from light, true God from true God, and through him all things were made. In the book of Revelations, Christ describes himself in 3 times as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Several decades after Teilhard's death, the idea of the omega point was expanded upon the writings of John David Garcia, Paolo Soleri, Frank Tipler, and David Deutsch in 1971, 1981, 1944, and 1977, respectively. Interesting thing about this is I'm going to talk about its formal properties, because it actually goes along the Formata Chilita, a song in 4 parts. So his Taylor theory is based on 4 properties. 1, humans will escape the heat death of the universe. Ain't nothing like saying people going to be immortal, like saying we're going to escape the heat death of the universe. Just saying. Current scientific understanding is that intelligence cannot survive heat death. Well, then where does the energy that it causes intelligence go? Because energy only changes states. He theorizes that since radial energy is non-compliant with entropy, it escapes the collapse of the force of world end. I should probably talk about that. So, talking about this book, it has energy exists in 2 basic modes: tangential energy, energy that can be measured by physics, and radial energy, spiritual energy, which accumulates into a higher state as time progresses. So basically, like physical energy, like calories and stuff, and Atman mana, basically, or Atman Sakti, like soul energy, like Shakti, psychic stuff. 2. So, Dvitya. The Omega Point does not exist within the timeline of the universe. It occurs at the exact edge of the end of time. From that point, all sequences of existence are sucked into its being. I told you time doesn't work the way you think it does. The Omega Point can be understood as a volume shaped like a cone in which each section taken from the base to its summit decreases until it diminishes into a final point. That is the Tritya of the formal properties, and Katrtha. The volume described in the third property must be understood as an entity with finite boundaries. Taylor explains. What would have become of humanity if, by some remote chance, it had been free to spread indefinitely on an unlimited surface? That is to say, left only to the devices of its internal affinities. Something unimaginable, perhaps not even nothing at all, when we think of the extreme importance of the role played in the development of the forces of compression. All right. And that is a whole other thing, getting deeper into the Omega Point cosmology and whatnot. But I'm going to wrap this up there because that's a good little episode. But that's I gave you 3 episodes on immortality and stuff related to it. Ain't that cool? This is Oracle, gonna sing myself out. Oh yeah, but like, circling back to what I was talking about earlier with a psychiatrist. If people are immortal and still using resources that can't be justified them using, like at all, like they don't need to eat, and they're eating because they're bored. That can't be justified. It just can't. Like, I don't even know what to do with that. Like, yeah, suppose they, like, it's a money-based society, they're moral, but no one really knows. Just like, they're not doing it to look like they're eating. They're not going in there to sit there and, like, eat something while they watch the people around. They're eating there, they're going there because they, like, they haven't had a cheeseburger in, like, a couple weeks. And they're just, like, bored, and they're like, you know what? I think I'll be reminded what a cheeseburger tastes like. I think that'll keep me from being, like, completely bored today. If that's what you're doing with your immortality, what are you even doing being immortal, yo? Anyway. Let's sort of, like, on the same topic of resurrection. Like, if people start coming back from the dead, what would we do resource-wise? Oh, really? That depends on how many people came back and why. And what they required for resources after they came back. Did they come back zombie style and require eating brains? That's a serious problem. Do they come back, like, zombie style that doesn't require them to, like, eat anything? Because that sounds like not a terrible deal. As long as we're not, like, treating them like slaves just because they died. Because that ain't cool. Chaining them up like Shaun of the Dead style. When they're not like Shaun of the Dead zombies, they're actually like intelligent people who are just alive again after they died. That'd be messed up. All right, but that's a whole other bit of topics for ethics and stuff that you know, in theory won't come up. So I'm not gonna worry about it. This is Oracle, gonna sing myself out. Drink safely out there all the way we out, and that'll be fine for now. Sing to you later to your Oracle me, to all of you out there, all of you loud.